Good evening, friends, and welcome you here at RIS, main RIS. It was just a hall there, and we are lucky to have with us one of the distinguished professional, Keith Parikh. And thank you, sir, for being with us on this occasion. And this session, of course, in the earlier two morning sessions, in the first session, we discussed a lot about the technologies and innovation that we can offer, India can offer to Africa. In the second session, we talked about how the enabling conditions, particularly in terms of markets, credit, extension systems, they are required to translate the technologies into outputs and outcomes. So on this session, we have what should be the way forward, how we can force this partnership between India and Africa for agricultural cooperation. And for this, we have with us a very distinguished professional, Dr. P.K. Joshi. He was earlier my boss, my mentor at ICR NIAP. Then he was Director, National Academy of Agriculture Research Management, Hyderabad. And finally, he retired as Director, South Asia, IFRI office. So welcome you, sir, and I request you to conduct this session. And we have a very distinguished panelist here. Dr. Ratna, he is a coordinator Dakshin here at RIS. We have Mr. Deepak Parikh, founder Honeybee. We have Mr. David Moore. He is the CEO of Farm Hub in Tanzania, Ethiopia. Then we have Professor Ram Singh from Delhi School of Economics and Professor C.S.C. Sekhar from Institute of Economic Growth. Sir.
Good evening to everyone. Very distinguished Dr. Keith Parikh sir. Welcome to you, Dr. Agrawal sir, Dr. Ramesh Singh sir, and very distinguished panelists of this particular session. First of all, I would like to compliment my heartiest greetings to RIS for 44th Foundation Day. So very happy birthday to RIS on this, many, many happy returns, very productive returns in future. And the topic which you have selected, India-Africa partnership, on this particular occasion on the Foundation Day, I think this is a very, very pertinent topic in view of the changing geopolitical, circumstances. So I think this is a very important topic. Friends, since morning we are discussing several important issues that India and Africa we have common challenges. Common challenges we have already discussed, and these common challenges like smallholder agriculture, climate change, soil degradation, water stress related issues, market disintegration. So these are the challenges which India is facing, and Africa is also facing similar kinds of challenges. We need to co-create, the knowledge and also for welfare of the farming community. The missing links, I think, are number one. The difference is that African countries are land abundant countries, but they have a smallholder agriculture or land abundant. But the issue is the land small holding. 80% of the farmers are smallholder. Like in India, we say 96, but now it must be at 90% holding must be smallholder in India. 80% in most of the African countries are small and marginal farmers. The second missing link is our weak institutions. In Africa, the institutions are very weak. Unlike India, the institutions are weak. Lack of water management related issues. Water is there, rainwater is there. If you see the soil, water, rainfall pattern, you will find similar kind of situation in African countries and our own many states of India, like Ethiopia, Malawi, Tanzania. No, it's just like Maharashtra kind of soil, temperature, rainfall. It's the same kind of situation, but they have a big contrast. So the markets are also missing. The supply chains are not integrated. They are very, very fragmented, and also a lack of capital. Morning it was mentioned that the capital is very essential in both countries. We also have lack of capital among farming community. So we need to see that how we integrate all these issues what we have discussed in the morning. When we say for way forward, we need to see for agriculture transformation, 4 things are essential. One is the technology. Technology is very, very important component. And second is the enabling policies. There should be enabling policies. And third, inclusive institutions. Inclusive institutions should be there, and adequate infrastructure should be there. So I used to say that these are the 4 components or 4 pillars of agriculture transformation. And we need to synchronize these 4 pillars for agriculture transformation. If one pillar is missing, we may not be able to transform agriculture. So I say that if these 4 pillars, like just in a car, just imagine 4 wheels. If you have perfect air in all the 4 wheels, you just press the accelerator, it will move the way you want. If one tire is less air, so you have to press the accelerator more. If one tire is completely flat, if institutions are missing, you have to drag the car. The transformation process will be completely halt. You have to drag, you have to give all the subsidy, you have to give all the support. So right now, some way or other way, I think one pillar is missing, either both in African countries or in Indian context. This particular session is to showcase your experiences on how we move forward from here onward, drawing lessons. One, your rich experiences. Second, the deliberations which we have during the in the morning session and the afternoon session. There were excellent presentations on various aspects, and we can learn lessons from both the sides. And we need to see that how we move forward. So we have to develop that maybe a roadmap we need to develop for our future endeavor. We have a very, very important panel, very enlightened panel of experts we have, and we have around 10 to 12 minutes for each of the panelists. You can either make a brief presentation through slide, or you can just share your views on this particular area. But just see that how we move forward now. From here onward, what should be our strategy? What should be our roadmap to move forward? So I think David has asked that he would like to give the first presentation. So I will invite you, David, for your presentation. David is CEO of the Farm Hub, and Dr. Sindhu was in the morning referring that his presentation is linked with his also presentation what he had made in the forenoon. And he is working in Africa in a big way. So over to you.
Thank you. Respected Chair and RLS, thank you for giving the opportunity to speak today. Hopefully go to my presentation quickly. I'm from Ireland, but I've been working in the European Community for the last 30 years. Dr. Sindhu, but I would like to spend more time on the way forward. To give you context, this is a typical Ethiopian farmer. It's Alem. She has rudimentary tools. She has poor seed. She has no inputs. If she has money, she couldn't buy them because it's not available. She has more issues with climate at the moment, so she has a poor yield, and then she's no access to a market. So she gets typically, the average in Ethiopia is 2.5 ton of wheat per hectare, and about the same in maize. The issues that you said, Dr. Dodgy, are complex. So there's a yield gap, there's an agronomic gap, there's a supply gap. So yes, you can still do it. You can get high yields in a research station, but farmers can't get the seed, they can't get things they need. There's a capacity gap, as you mentioned, and there's a funding gap. So the same pillars, the same four tires that you mentioned earlier on the car. But if you look at potential, and Dr. Ramesh mentioned earlier, Africa can feed the world. The potential yield, in wheat, from 3 ton to 9 ton, 3.6 ton of maize to 15 ton. Africa can grow all year round. Where we were in Hawassa, it's 16, 26 degrees all year round. It has over a meter of rainfall. So Dr. Sibu was there saying they should be growing all year round in this area, and they only grow one crop because of all of those constraints. So Africa can feed the world. Africa can be abundant. They are resource rich, capacity poor, but you can build capacity. They have the fundamentals. They have the resources. It's how we build capacity. So what we developed in the last few years is called Farm Hub, and it's, we say, bridging the gap. So you have all these amazing technologies that we heard about earlier in India, all of these solutions, but then you have all of these farmers, 15 million in Ethiopia, and you cannot get solutions down to them. So things work at the research station, but they don't get down to the smallholder farmer. So you have this gap between the farmers and the solutions. And so what we developed is a whole holistic approach. So you need finance, you need capacities, you need institutions, you need all of these things for the farmer to be successful. And so we're very ambitious ambition to open, we call them field stations, to open several thousand field stations, and basically to about 20% of Ethiopian farmers basically having the access to these field stations, a one-stop shop. And the way to do it is through a holistic approach, through education and everybody working together. So the farmer model has three processes to bridge the gap. Level one is the field station, providing access to the farmer. Level two is an operations center that coordinates. Each one will coordinate about 20 field stations to make sure it's all working together. And then level three is the mission control. So this is a technology transfer. So how do you move it from India to Ethiopia? So you would have a mission control in India, synthesizing what works in India to what would work in Africa. And then the same thing would happen then in Africa, and you're building that bridge across. Basically, you're making sure it works in a research first, and then it goes down to the smallholder farmer. So this is the field station, like the custom hiring centers, one-stop shop. So it's providing all of the equipment, seed, fertilizer, agronomy, all the digital tools that we heard about in the last session, all in one thing for the farmer. The operations center is making sure that everything is working the way it should do, providing governance, providing training, and going around and making sure that the field stations are the right quality, that everything is working. Then I mentioned the mission control is overseeing everything, but also how does the finance get down to a rural village in Ethiopia? So the idea would be the mission control would basically buy the equipment. It's all powered by Indian technology. It would own the equipment, and then it would provide it on as a pay-as-you-go basis down to the rural village. And so there's three different levels. The mission control will be based in Ireland. We would purchase the Indian technologies, and then we would then give them as a pay-as-you-go basis down. And the field station will be a local entrepreneur. It's a franchise system. So a bit like McDonald's, a local person who is feeding with the farmer, it's their business, but we provide them everything in a box, basically everything they need, because how can they possibly start from scratch? We give them a repeatable model that they can then be scaled across the country. And then the idea is, a bit like McDonald's, you create a whole playbook that can then be scaled, just building that capacity. The most important thing is it has to use appropriate technology. So in Africa and Ethiopia, the Western countries are trying to sell large equipment which is not appropriate, 150, 200 horsepower tractors that break, and the Chinese are dumping low-cost equipment everywhere across Ethiopia and Africa, but it's Indian technology is the right technology. So it's good quality, it's European quality at a Chinese price. So it needs to be low-cost, affordable for the farmer. And then we do a whole analysis on the model. It's a low-cost service model, basically, using the technology. Then going forward into the future, what Ramesh said earlier, Africa can be abundant, but then what if you can then go even further and develop an alley cropping system where you have, different crops all designed based on mechanization in terms of staple crops together with perennial crops, and then other vegetable crops that the farmer can grow in shade underneath. And this, if you look at it, it could get to 10x times the yield they're currently getting. So the potential is there, but you need to systemize it and scale it. But this is what an Ethiopian farm could look like basically in 10 years' time, and they're providing 20 tons per hectare. The agronomic potential is there. We've been working with many different providers over the last few years. We're working with Indian suppliers, with universities, Dr. Sidhu, PAU, I'll go through now. And we've signed a partnership with Hawassa University. Education is the key to this and demonstration. So we've been learning from what we worked in. I was amazed when I was in PAU and seeing the open day and how farmers go there. So we're trying to replicate that. So we partnered with Hawassa University. We have 50 hectares of land and we're doing demonstrations. I'll show you now. We have a team from Ethiopia, but all over the world and all different approaches. We've got finance people, we've got development people, engineers, all different backgrounds. And it's a consortium. It's not one company. We're just trying to push this forward, but it's a partnership of all different groups working together. So this is the pilot we did with Dr. Sidhu. We got the land in the university. Dr. Sidhu came for 2 weeks with a team from PAU and Landforce. We were doing demonstration of all the different technologies, so 2 Sonalika tractors and a whole range of 10 implements. We did laser leveling. We did superseeding. Dr. Sidhu was showing all different students, and it was amazing to see the enthusiasm from students. So their parents have a life of drudgery, doing hard work. That's not something people want to aspire to. When they've seen this equipment and they've seen the potato planter, they've seen all this, completely change their mindset and say, you can become a custom operator and have a business doing this. It changes their whole mindset completely. And we've had thousands of people coming to see the actual site. Dr. Sidhu trained everybody on the farming practice. So it's not just tractors, it's Indian solutions basically are what needed. You can see all the different crops were planted. We believe this is the first automated or sort of potato planter in Ethiopia, where they don't have potato planters. We couldn't get the right potato seeds to actually go into it. So that's the next step, basically. We've been learning. Dr. Sidhu trained our team, so then they were then training other people. We trained thousands of people onto the regenerative agriculture and Indian ways. They want to plow in Ethiopia, so we're trying to break that mindset. We've done field demonstrations for different local colleges, again, showing them a different way. And seeing is believing, basically. So this is, you'll see the impact. 2 weeks of Dr. Sidhu there, you're going to see the impact of what it had on the crop. They've never seen crops planted like this in rows before. This is 20 days, 30 days. And all we did was we used the local seed, which was a poor seed. We applied fertilizer of planting, and that's it. So we didn't use good seed. We didn't apply anything else. And they've never seen wheat crop like this. We had thousands of people coming to see this. We got 6.5 tons per hectare, and the average is 2.5 tons. So just with 2 weeks of Dr. Sidhu and a team being there, look at the impact India has had on Africa. So you have a remarkable farming system in India. You've got remarkable technologies. It needs to be scaled around the world. So the way forward. So unfortunately, there's too many, everybody's working in silos. Okay, there's so many projects. If you think RAS was 44 years old. In the last 44 years, how much money and time has gone into projects that don't end up basically in the valley of missed opportunity? Everybody's working in silos. Government works in silos, and India and Africa, organization, private sector. How many Indian companies are going in isolation to Africa and doing their own projects? How many different organizations? And so we always have declarations where they're going to ban the hand hoe from African farming, and nothing ever happens. So everybody's working in silos, and all of this money's and energy going into it, with no output. And so what Dr. Sidhu was talking about earlier is we need to change this, and we need to basically build a bridge. So we're calling it ISAMA, the Indian African Sustainable Agriculture Mechanization Bridge. So how can we basically take Indian knowledge, Indian technology, Indian solutions, and bring it to Africa, and actually create communities of practice in Ethiopia, starting in Ethiopia, show the full system, show all of the digital technology, show all of this thing that's working, get everybody working on one system, on one mission, then scale it. So it's not something quick. You work for several years, you develop the system, everything there, you show it working. Ethiopia is the home of the African Union, so you're going to have every African embassy is in Ethiopia, is in Hawassa. So it becomes a showcase for Indian knowledge, and African countries want that partnership. They don't just want to buy tractors. They need the knowledge, they need the capacity. So we can bring that Indian knowledge to Africa. And Dr. you mentioned earlier, there's huge credibility for India in Africa because of a similar journey in terms of colonization. I'm from Ireland. We had the same journey basically. So they see India with a different mindset basically. So if you can use that and say, we're not here just to sell you a technology, we're here to sell you a solution, and we're going to build capacity for you. They don't need to be building tractors in these countries now. They need Indian technology that's proven. They need to basically increase the farmers' yield, and maybe in 20 years' time, they could do a partnership and go to a joint venture with an Indian company to do local manufacturing. Right now, it's about developing a system, increasing farmers' yield. As you said, in terms of economics, Dr. Rameshandi, agriculture is the key to growth. If you can raise agriculture levels and create jobs, basically, that's huge from the Indian perspective in terms of your government's agenda in Africa. That's what they need, basically. And so it's about moving from dialogue to delivery. We need to create an actual structure where everybody's working together on the same mission, ICRISAT, IFBC, RIS, all the different groups that are ICA are all working together basically to develop it, work with the Ministry of Agriculture, working with the Ministry of Trade. It's for the benefit of all of India. Just in agricultural equipment alone, the African market is worth $8 billion to the potential $80 billion. When you add in soil sensors that we heard about earlier, when you add in digital solutions, it's worth 3 or 4 times that. If you add in service on top of that, agricultural service, it's again. So it's a massive opportunity. And if you look what India has done, it's incredible what you, in terms of take things, we heard from the dairy board earlier, how they've been able to scale things across India. That's a skill set that other countries don't have. If you can take that skill set and package it and provide solutions, there's no reason why India can't get it. And every tractor could be Indian in Africa, and every planter could be Indian in Africa with the right way. But you have to do it in a holistic manner, basically, and go forward. So what we're suggesting is that we do an Indian-African bridge, basically. We try and raise funding, from the Indian government and also on the African side, from the Ethiopian side, and we partner together. It will take a few years to do it with 3 communities of practice, and we show it working, and then it can be scaled across Ethiopia and across Africa. And so it's a famous quote from Buckminster Fuller: if the model is broken, we don't try to fix it. Basically, we build a brand new model, and we show that it works. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Building the bridge for future prosperity. It's a slogan, very good slogan. You can use it for India-Africa partnership. You have flagged the issue of the bridging the yield gaps and then have a roadmap to technology, knowledge, capacity building. It's an excellent presentation. And also you have covered on the convergence. So we're working on silos, but there's the need for convergence. But the convergence is very difficult. Although we say it's implementation of convergence, I think we need to create some institutional arrangement so that the convergence happens. Thank you very much for excellent ideas and flagging important issues. Now we move, and I invite Dr. Rajan Sudesh Ratna, who is the coordinator from Dakshin RIS. Over to Mr.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much for giving me this floor. I'm happy, David, what he said about $80 billion market, right? So, what I'm going to talk is not the conventional agriculture practices, but I'm focusing on trade and how the trade between India and Africa is there, especially in agriculture. This is a paper which we are doing in Dakshin for the India-Africa Summit. My colleague, I don't know, Tanya, are you there? Is she there somewhere? Yeah, she is the one who has been working on this. So thank you. This is just a presentation of the paper which we are doing. one doesn't need to say about the importance of agriculture in terms of livelihood, employment, and other things for India and Africa. And I think much has been talked about. So what I'm going to touch upon is how the share of agriculture and food supply, at least in terms of sectoral employment in percentage for India and Africa, looks like. And you can see in Africa, the sectoral employment coming for that is quite high compared to India. And then if you see the percentage of arable land, the situation is reversed. India has more than perhaps Africa, which is being shown here. And it's a 3 years average, but it is not land only, but looking into the equipped for irrigation. And then the undernourishment is another challenge, but we split Africa into northern and sub-Sahara. And again, you can see how the picture looks like. So even among the African countries, there is quite divergence in terms of many facets of agriculture. Unfortunately, we had to look into not individual country, but I looked into the Africa one. So if you see India's trade with Africa, it is more or less showing a similar trend of going up and down. Of course, Africa has been exporting more to India in the present times, except there is a slight drop which happened in 2024, but it is following the same kind of a trend. But if you look into the agriculture compared with the total merchandise trade, the right-hand side of the graph is the agriculture exports into the trade into between India and Australia, India and Africa. So you can see that the share of agriculture import of India from Africa is much lesser than what India is exporting to Africa within the total merchandise trade. So within all the trading goods happening, agriculture share of agriculture for India export is around in the range of 15 to 20% for India, but it's oscillating between 5 to 10 for Africa. If you see how India's exports trend of Africa vis-a-vis world, basically the share, you can see the share has been increasing, but it's less than 10%. So what India is exporting to the world is only 10% or less of that is going to Africa. Whereas if India is importing from Africa, it's still further less, it's less than 5%. So there is a lot of potential. That means India is exporting to the world around 95% to the rest of the world, and only 90% to the rest of the world, and 10% is going to Africa. Whereas Africa is exporting 95% to the rest of the world, but around 5%, which is of course gradually increasing to India, actually less than 5%. Now, if you look at the top 5 imports from Africa and top 5 exports to Africa from India, you will find that the value terms gap could also be because it's a primary and a raw agricultural product which is being imported from Africa. So while David talked about how to mechanize and produce, what this picture or what this table depicts is if Africa could go up the value chain in transforming the primary agricultural product to the secondary or tertiary agricultural product or a processed food, the balance of trade or the share might increase because it will go up the higher value added the agriculture production and exports. This is also reflected from India's export of agricultural product to Africa. We have compared from the year 2000 to 2024 and import, and this you can see India's export in horticulture and primarily bulk has declined, but the processed and semi-processed has increased. It has increased by around 25% to 30%. Whereas if you see the rising import from Africa, it's a primary bulk agricultural product where you can see the increase happening. But on the other parts, this is declining, except for the processed food, there is a slight increase. And that shows what Africa requires in terms of agriculture. So what And the study is suggesting is endorsing what David was talking about. Agro processing is important that need to be developed in Africa. Perhaps that is an area of cooperation. We have, thank you for the evidence and taking that presentation before me, because I have an evidence to show that what I am recommending is true. And then the other thing is we are looking at is Indian investments going to Africa in this processing industry. That is also not happening. Both these countries are facing challenges in food security, climate change, droughts, floods, and other conditionalities, where both India and Africa can share their experiences with practices. Digital solutions are becoming more and more important. And in India, it has really transformed the agriculture sector. Perhaps that is an area where India could help Africa in using these digital solutions for value chain, for marketing, digital marketing, and other things. AI, satellite monitoring, precision farming infrastructure, etc., are being developed in India that Africa can take up from India. Startups, there are many startups in India in the ecosystem and agribusiness. The joint venture working together perhaps would be important. The other thing which is very important is the rising non-tariff barriers, and it's globally in agriculture. So the agriculture global trade is distorted because of the non-tariff barriers, as well as the various agriculture subsidies and supports which are given. So even at a farm gate, the farmers of India and Africa being globally competitive, they are not getting the global market because of the non-tariff barriers and the distortion of the trade because of the subsidies and domestic support. And one thing what is required between India and Africa is to address among themselves this non-tariff measures, go for a mutual recognition agreement, conformity assessment, recognizing each other's testing laboratories. And even if in Africa there are not many testing laboratories, perhaps India can help them build those laboratories so that they can look for the global market. And that brings to the last point, which is the capacity building and knowledge sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Rajan. You have made excellent point, and you have flagged most important area of the trade. And also you have flagged some of the key issues for partnership. The important areas on trade are fresh cashew or dried cashew, and then pulses, especially pigeon pea. You will be surprised that the African countries like Malawi, Tanzania, they are producing pigeon pea for us. They don't consume, but they are producing for us. If we ban pigeon pea import, I think that farmers will be severely affected. So ICRISAT is working, I think, in Malawi, in Tanzania on pigeon pea, and they have developed some very important varieties. I remember during my day, Dr. Lakshman Singh used to be the pioneer pigeon pea breeder. So these are the important areas. I think that there is a need for more trade negotiation between India and African countries, not the whole continent, but the important countries. We can identify countries and explore possibilities of trade negotiation where non-tariff barriers can be included. So thank you very much for tagging very, very important issues. Now I invite Dr. Deepak Parekh. Deepak is the founder of Honeybee and experience in this particular.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity and happy birthday to it's pleasure to be here at 44th Foundation Day. Luckily, I had a very esteemed speaker already sharing a lot of data, which I could have touched upon. But again, as you said, third is still better. You carried on his thoughts, and now I'll carry your thoughts. So beauty is that actually we have seen some beautiful data where it shows that suddenly, the charts, when we talk about import from Africa, drastically changes from 2000 to 2024. We've also seen that there is something which cannot be explained, but still there, that suddenly, why a country or continent which can process more, suddenly their processing capacities goes down. But this is where actually we have to connect the dots and also see Indian trade policies. These dips, ups and downs are not because of suddenly Africa deciding not to purchase a product or not to produce a product. It was because India took a policy stand. You talked about, sir, pigeon pea, beautiful product. In fact, India exports 70% of our pigeon pea from Africa. And out of total pigeon pea we consume, right, close to roughly like, our consumption is 4.4 million metric ton, and we produce luckily between 3.2 to 3.4 million metric ton, including seeds. So anytime, given time, 30% of our pigeon pea consumption is coming from Africa. Another very important aspect, rest of the pulses can be substituted. To substitute pigeon pea is very difficult because definitely you don't want your sambar to be tasting like a chana dal. Right. So pigeon pea and urad, until and unless there is a demand destruction, right, it cannot be substituted. But this is what we did to Tanzania. Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique, they grow extensive amount of pigeon pea only for India. Other than that, actually their cattle even don't like pigeon pea. Now what happened is that actually in 21, 22, we suddenly believe that our farmers are not getting right amount of money, and we said, thank you. Because you are LDC, I cannot impose taxes on you. I'll do it other way around. Rather than putting a taxes and making the import costlier and giving more money to our farmers, we ended up banning it. A 2,000 shilling product, which farmer was waiting to harvest and give it to us, it became 200 shilling product because it was not even good for cattle feed. Now, these type of things we have seen regularly. Now, what's happening, unfortunately for India, last 2 to 3 years, Africa is learning from us. Now, they are doing us in rice what we did in pigeon pea. You know, we are having a lot of rice. West Africa is saying that, okay, thank you. Right. I would put tremendous amount of duties. I'll ban your imports and I'll do everything. So I believe what is happening is that unfortunately a relationship which could have been great. Right? India is a great market. I believe that actually India should be self-reliant in everything, but that's not a reality. We have a limited amount of land. We are talking about 130 to 150 million hectares, which we are having. Africa is sitting on 600 million hectares of uncultivated land. Do we want it to be given to China, US, or Europe? Now, let me set the context. Since the morning you've been talking about we should do something with Africa. I think still we are half-hearted. I'm half African, half Indian because I travel India, beautiful country, extensively. I stay here, and also I extensively travel and engage with stakeholders in Africa. So my heart is that these two great regions should collaborate. But generally, when we do, whether it's from African side or Indian side, we go it in a half-hearted way. South-South cooperation is great, right? India specific country cooperation is more important. Now let's talk about India and East Africa. Now we have to understand we are having not great neighbors around, right? On West, on North and East, they have not been very, very charitable to us. But there is a neighbor who is always been charitable to us, who is just across the Indian Ocean, East Africa. If you just take the number of Indians, our diaspora there, it's 3 million Indians. They have built businesses there. They have actually having multiple generations. Right? Yes, we had a bad example of Uganda, but now it's not same scenario. World has moved, and you'll find that second generation, third generation, fourth generation Indians there, they are actually controlling business. You go to a place like Tani, which is actually in this Madagascar, the capital. It's a big name, Antananarivo. It's known as Tani there. You'll find 60% of the landlords are Indians. They make money just by actually taking rent, and people like it. Because we generally like in saying that we don't create problem, we create businesses. But that is why actually we have to look at Africa in a different angle. Second, we have to also focus. Generally what happens is when we see it from an Indian perspective, we see, okay, I should get into every place in Africa. No, you cannot do that. When we talk about we have to compete with the US, right, which is roughly $40 trillion economy, with China, which is $23 trillion economy. Now, when you have to compete, and we are around 4.5 to 5, depending on actually which number you see, we don't have those level of resources that we can go upright, compete them in infrastructure. I've seen India trying to get into infrastructure. No, you cannot do anything. I've seen it go and try to get into the mining. No, you cannot do it because that is something which they hold very close to their heart. And we have seen that Europe had the first mover advantage because they colonized. Then China, they had the advantage of putting money on the table first and talking later. And off late US.
because they have been panicking about the rare earth material and they are trying to now build like, Pan-African the rail lines. So they are investing heavily. Now, how do we compete with them? This is where the beauty of agriculture. Sir has done a great work. And you rightly said, seeing is believing is what Africa believes in. You go and tell them, actually, I'll give you a helicopter. They say, no, I don't believe. Show me. I came in a helicopter. No, I don't care. Fly it in front of me. That's what Africans are all about. Now, you have been there for 20 days. You have trained. We have to handhold. We think we'll give gyan to them. Sitting here, writing a concept note, sending to them, hey, Africa should build. This is how we build great institutions in Africa. Nobody reads it. We are having a huge legacy, ancient history. They are not such an old civilization. Their understanding is very limited. They are very transactional. We have to handhold with them. You were successful because 2 weeks you were there. If you would have given 3 days training, give a manual, come back, you would have seen the farm exactly same way. Unfortunately or fortunately, we have seen that also happening in many parts of India. You have to learn. See, Africa is where India used to be 20, 25 years back, right? So if somebody who sees, same sir, you are saying that North Africa is different than the rest of the Africa. And the beautiful thing which you have to understand, which is also very important for India, is that between North and Sub-Saharan Africa, on the nutrition part of it, India line was in between. Our country is food sufficient but nutritionally deficient. And from where we'll get the nutrition? Oil and fats and pulses, amino acids. 70%, 60 to 70%, Savi, you know better than me, we import edible oils, right? 30% on average, pulses we import. Now, if we become Atmanirbhar with our yields, if we just switch it over, so you will become food insufficient. Right? So we have to understand something we'll have to import. Africa is suitable for growing pigeon pea, right? Let them grow pigeon pea, give them a stable policy which says that, okay, fine, for 5 years, we are not going to change it. And sir, we are going to Canada and getting yellow peas imported to substitute tuar. Just see the profile of two different products and see to it that actually should Indians be fed something which is animal feed in Western world to replace with our tuar dal. I would say no. We support Africa. They love it. There is a concept called Ubuntu and Vasudev Kutumbakam. Both are same. And because of you is what Ubuntu is. And we say that the world is our one village. The concept, the logic, the structure, the thought process of Africa and India is very synonymous to each other. We need Africa as much as Africa needs us. We have the capabilities which Africa needs, and Africa is having resources which we need. We can avoid all sort of conflicts and not getting into where the Europeans, Chinese, or American are playing. We get into agriculture, build a soft bridges, and eventually 2030, 2040, 2050, right? We'll see to it that actually together, India and Africa will become the world's food ball rather than either Africa becoming the world food ball or India becoming the world. We both want to become, we collaborate. And with that, I would say that there are opportunities definitely in creating good clusters. India's investment, institutional investment. I'm not saying that actually India should just go and start buying things there. Create value addition infrastructure there. Just getting, for example, we talked about beautiful cashew. We take raw cashew nut, get it all the way to India, process it, send it to Europe, US or Europe. Why we need to do that? Just think about the wastages we have done. If somebody is able to put a plant, right, in Benin, right, and he'll be able to process Indian capital, Indian expertise, Indian understanding, right? And then actually, like, you export that cashew to Europe and US, you'll make more money. So we have to understand that how do we sanitize? Only thing which I've seen that people become cynical when we talk about Africa is that they call quote unquote security. Is my investment safe? Right? In the morning, somebody was saying that actually to get the equity into Africa is easy, getting equity out of Africa is as difficult. Please try your luck in America. Right? We talk about safety and security, or we talk about, like, the political class of Africa is whimsical. I think there is only one whimsical person in the world actually we all are worried about, right? And they are the most advanced in the world. So see, world is, see, Africa was here, rest of the people were here. Now rest of the people are here, right? When we talk about security. So now Africa is as safe, as secure for investment as America, right? I don't want to name the gentleman, but we know that what are the challenges are. So I think this is our time. This is the time of Africa. This is the time to invest, not in Europe, This is the time to invest not in America. This is the time to invest in Africa. As I said, humongous resources. We have what we need, and I think anybody. I'm a businessman, so anybody who invests in Africa, take my word, right? वो 5 साल में हमारे स्कीम की सरकार की पैसा डबल होता था, right? I assure you that is going to happen. Thank you.
Excellent point. You have also flagged issue on trade representative. Trade is becoming very important for the partnership. And also you have focused on identifying key commodities for strengthening global value chain. So importing of raw material and then exporting by adding value on that. The candidates are, I think, raw cashew, raw cotton, these are the candidates, but we will identify more commodities and develop the global value chain so that both African countries and India, they should benefit of this global value chain. You also highlighted on handholding, capacity building. Very good point you have. Thank you very much for your inputs. We move to now invite to Professor Sekhar. Professor Sekhar is Professor and Head Agroeconomic Research Unit, Institute of Economic Growth, University of Delhi. Dr. Sekhar, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. And, first of all, let me thank RIS for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to share my views. It's an advantage actually coming somewhat late into the discussion because a number of points have already been covered. And what I'm going to do is basically, Rajan has covered the trade part and David has covered the, basically the mechanization technology part. And Deepak, in his inimitable style, has flagged many issues. So what I want to do is basically go into what is the private sector doing in Africa, private sector, Indian private sector doing in various countries in Africa, how those initiatives are somewhat relevant, and how those can be probably scaled up, and perhaps the public and government-to-government contacts between India and Africa can perhaps be modeled on these kinds of initiatives. That is the main. Before doing that, let me just give the background of trade and investment in Africa. The bilateral trade between these two regions is roughly around $100 billion of late, the latest figures suggest. And as the speakers have already highlighted, India mainly exports rice, sugar, and bovine meat, and then imports pulses. So those are basically the import part is, I think it's pretty reasonable. Then so far, India-Africa partnership has been, in my mind, is based on 5 different pillars. The first pillar is the financial assistance. India has already, in fact, given a concession, has extended over 12 billion in concessional lines of credit, and also has given $700 million in grants to various African. What these funds are actually doing is something that needs to be evaluated. I think that there has to be more effort into seeing that the investment or the financial assistance is going into the right areas in Africa and various countries. One of the important projects that is being undertaken out of this financial assistance is a $640 million project, sugar project in Ethiopia. And you will be able to throw more light on that, how actually it's working. And upgrading processing mills in Ghana, and machinery procurement and tractor purchase in Angola, Lesotho, and Malawi. These are the 3, particularly the kind of routes that this financial assistance seems to have taken. It is from the data it appears. And then coming to the private entrepreneurship, basically the different private companies that the groups are doing in various countries in Africa. Different kinds of things seem to be happening in Africa because of India's private sector. For example, in floriculture, there is a company called Karuturi Global, which have actually developed large rose plantations. How that has benefited local farmers is something that needs to be really looked at by researchers and other entities. And then food processing, there are firms like ETG and Zimgold are investing in local refineries and wells to reduce post-harvest losses. Mind you, in Africa, the post-harvest losses almost reach 30%. It's a huge number. And then there is a strategic MOU between World Agricultural Forum and Indigram Labs Foundation, which is basically aiming to mentor 500 agri entrepreneurs. How far it has progressed, what is the shape it has taken is something. Oh, that's very important. That's very important. This is the kind of feedback that needs to, because there is a lot of things that are being said on the paper.
Chairman and promoter the use in India from the diaspora, a very in-depth
Are they actually able to train in agri entrepreneurs, or are they able to do anything to local contribute? No, not really.
Facility that better for because I have trained they got
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So Banastri have done very good work, and actually they got 20 young women from Africa who were entrepreneurs and rigorously trained. In fact, I've taken workshop for a couple of days. There were a lot of other experts, and I still get their response saying that actually my business is improved. This is what I'm doing. So I think we can scale it a larger manner. In fact, there is budget for embassies in Africa, High Commission embassies, where we can send agriculture experts. It is never utilized. And when I was asking to our ambassadors and High Commissioner, they said actually they have never requested for that. Right. So unfortunately, what is happening is that I think better communication can enhance this relationship better.
There is this program, another program that I think is ITEC, the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation to train Austrian products. Will any feedback on that, whether it's doing anything for the African countries? These are some of the things that are already in the pipeline, but I don't know how these are actually doing. There has to be some research by.
And sir, I think there should be one more research, whether calling their people here, training them is better, or we send our expert there, right? Or that is better, because I believe second works better than the first in my limited experience.
Yeah, in fact, David's presentation and process, it was. Students from these countries, and they come over here, they stay, continue with a particular course in which they have already sought admission prior to coming over. So that is funded by Government of India, but not the model what you are suggesting. Probably that has to be taken up by Ministry of External Affairs separately. We are not in a position. I take.
From India to countries. But there only the catch is that the local government has to arrange local logistics. That is more of a country specific. Here when the IT courses are 15 countries, 2 persons come to. One country has to organize in all its grounds, 2 courses are done. But normally many countries don't organize that aspect. There are fewer courses there. And third is the executive IT course, where joint secretary of Minister has come. That is a very senior level, which I saw. Those are the IT course has been very good in terms of where of disasters. Whole country. Would be all 15 countries? No. It's one group. Yeah, you are right. 15 countries also, or one country group can also.
But when they go back, they face the same systemic problems that they have. So they're getting great knowledge here, but when they go back to their country, the system isn't around them, and they face these challenges. So you're just giving them all this knowledge, and they're still fighting the system that exists around them. So we need to help the.
Right now, and we have such a lot of participants. When we talk about anything, we control those participants, and that was the reason we started to clear that for the plan. I think that we will work for the 28 questions. In fact, 3rd of June is the ISRA Foundation Day, first Foundation Day. And this topic is only interacting with getting feedback for high-tech participants. We'll be talking about it. The 3rd June will be. Course-wise, what I've seen in the last 3 years is very simple course. But a lot of participants gone together, you go into everything, started doing business. Depending on the institution they come to, this administration organization is a different partner. Every institution might not be doing that level. Is there, but in terms of program design is good. Implementation I sure depends on who.
Can you
Quickly wrap up.
Yeah.
Last.
So you can continue. We'll discuss later on.
No, I think most of the points are covered.
Yeah.
Most importantly, what is it that India probably can contribute to? Apart from all the things that we take from other organizations, one of the things is digital public infrastructure and what we have of UPI and other system that we have. I think this is something that is going to really help the local farmers in getting the right products and things. So those are things that India can help them with. Number 2 is the digital land records. The land records and the kind of now Sanjay Agarwal will be able to tell us more about the kind of address tag and the kind of things that we are doing, like the drops that we are doing. Can we have something similar so that the customized solutions can be provided to small? Last week, currently your entire thing, one of the important things is very beautiful. I think the kind of technology, the kind of right machinery we can improve the yields and all that has to, and then getting it out and then market the produce. It requires convergence across departments, across states, and this is institutional bottleneck, not only in Africa but also in India. We are having the same problems here. Doesn't know what is across the department. So this is something, I don't know, India doesn't have much to offer to Africa, but we need to collectively evolve some sort of the institutional mechanism where things can be from production to processing to trade. All those things have to be this helps. And thank you, Dr. Krishnan.
This point generated a lot of discussions, so thank you very much, and tagging very important issue of how to attract the private sector. So this is another important area, and also you flagged on the financial assistance, where it has gone, in fact, assessment of the financial assistance, how it was used, how it made the impact. You were also referring on capacity building on agri-entrepreneurship and digital infrastructure. This morning, there was discussion that some of the African countries are way ahead in digital segments, Indian context. And the convergence, finally, all of us say convergence is very difficult. So let us discuss on it, how we can have better institutional arrangement for convergence. So thank you very much. Now we invite Dr. Ram Singh. Dr. Ram Singh is director and from Delhi School of Economics. He is also member of the RBI Monetary Policy Committee. A very renowned economist. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Joshi. I will make 3 broad points. Broadly, in response to what has transpired in this session so far, and the challenges that emerge in response to, or when we think of executing the suggestions that have come to the floor this evening. We have seen that there's a lot of potential in Africa in terms of productivity. David made a strong case, and also how to go about improving productivity and making change, transformative change at a micro level. Or we think of what Professor Rajan mentioned, that there is a scope for trade. Trade at the moment seems to be mostly raw, unprocessed products, and if both sides can move up the value chain, then both will gain. Or we think of other political economy issues that Deepak and Shekhar have highlighted. To me, the entire issue poses three sets of challenges. One is that we have technological, we know that there's a problem. We also know that there are solutions, technological or otherwise. And we also know that there are potential beneficiaries needing this help, who needs to be helped on urgent basis. But how do we make sure that people, institutions, processes involved, they lend helping hand, and the potential beneficiary wants to be helped? So I expect resistance coming from all these channels and respondents. So we need to make people who are influential decision makers, policy makers, who have important voices, to see the need for cooperation between Africa and India. It is otherwise, you will hear responses that we didn't ask for this particular budget, so why should we adopt it? We don't want to be helped. We don't want other foreigners to be interfering in our agriculture. And with agriculture, there's always important political economy. Politics is very important because agriculture is perhaps most sensitive sector when it comes to politics. So that's one set of resistance that we should foresee and prepare how to make the case. And there, I think it will be helpful to tell them what all the evidence that we have seen this evening, but also see that the agriculture has broad macroeconomic implications. For most African countries, like for us, food is important part of household budget. And therefore, it's an important consideration. Inflation, prices become very important, both in terms of, so if there's if we can pitch the trade as a price stabilizing mechanism, then the receptivity hopefully will go up, because inflation with respect to food prices is most sensitive part of inflation in any country. And whether a particular country has inflation fighting regime in place or not, most countries care about inflation. Most central banks, even with semi-developed institutions, care about inflation. So if we can pitch that rightly, so that stabilizing inflation would mean stabilizing food prices, and stabilizing food prices will require all the interventions that we have talked about. If we do not stabilize food prices, then price will have to be paid by the rest of the economy, because to bring average prices, average inflation down, you have to control, you have to basically hold rest of the economy by its neck and not let it go. So these are some of the costs associated with food prices and agriculture as a sector. Then the other set of individuals who will be resisting what all is being suggested this evening is the potential beneficiaries themselves. The regions were also articulated by my esteemed panelists, that Africans care for security. It turns out that most farmers care about security. Most people who care about security. That makes them risk averse. That also makes them suspecting of any technological solution that you present to them. That means that the simple nudges while what David presented to us, demonstration that that there is a possibility of increase in productivity might not be enough to make the transition that is required to adopt technology. Because people, farmers, and small entrepreneurs, they by temperament, because of the situation they are in, they tend to be extremely risk averse and suspecting of change. So these are, and therefore, to make them, to nudge them, to provide them effective nudge, will require certainly showcasing what all is possible and also tying it up with the idea of security. This transition technology is, so in the past, technology in agriculture has created, yield fluctuation, yield volatility has gone up. That has made the farmers resistant to adopting technological changes. So having a system, a technology that not only delivers average high output yield, but also is more stabilizing, I think will be important consideration going forward. Related to this would be the sustainability of agricultural practices. So agriculture is most vulnerable sector of the economy as far as climatic conditions are concerned, everywhere, here and in most parts of the world. So that the practices they market should be practices that will improve sustainability of agriculture everywhere. I think with this, it may be possible for us to basically help to leverage our experience, our technological prowess for benefit of Africa, and also make our contribution that we want to make in the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We have on the plus side, we have several strengths to draw upon when we embark on this initiative. One is our technology. And in technology, I will count that AI agriculture is a right along with health. Agriculture is a right field for using AI, both in terms of weather forecast, in terms of responses, in terms of disseminating the appropriate responses, and in terms of the data, diversity of data that we have. So our diversity is not comparable to Africa as a continent, but it is better than for any other country. It's almost comparable to diversity that is there in the European Union. So that gives us diversity of data in terms of that there are different cultural practices, agricultural practices, there are different land holding patterns, very similar to what you see in Africa, in some cases even more fragmented land holding patterns in other cases. And also we have the benefit of having in practice different legal practices when it comes to land owning processes, when it comes to data generation processes, when it comes to data compilation processes. So with this kind of strength, technological strength and cultural, geological diversity, we should be able to make some important progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing important issues. One very important issue which is coming up is you also highlighted the improving the communication. And Honorable Dr. Chari in the morning was referring that Indian embassies, they're hesitating to talk to the private sector. So I think the communication between the key stakeholders now things are completely changing. So communication is very important. I think we should give the task to our embassies or at the public sector that we need to create opportunities that are explore opportunities for collaboration. One. Then you are also talking about the sustainable agricultural practices. I think this is another very important area. And you also emphasize on the data, how to structure data, how to develop the good data, so that it's appropriate policy and institutional arrangements can be got. Thank you very much for the very good input. So,
so if you look at what India has done with your KDK approach and it's all community centered, this is what Africa needs. So your point about it's risk averse. They are 100% risk averse. This is their livelihoods down the line. So the way India has done it in terms of doing it by community approach is what Africa needs. Other countries don't have that same approach, that same skill set. So that's another thing that India has done. You scale things across, the country using community by community. That's what Africa needs, that same approach. So it's not just Indian technology, it's Indian knowledge of how to scale things very well across, large different communities. That skill set is what's needed in Africa. You've got the technology and you've also got the skill set as to how to scale things, how to work with government, like your government policies and your government initiatives and that. That's an amazing skill set that they need basically. So to me, it's technology and how to do it as well. That's what India has. The others that we don't have. And the approach as well that is community based. I think that's the key thing going forward. Because they don't want to make change. They have to see somebody else doing it. They can see that their neighbor is successful and the neighbor has nice crops and the neighbor has a better house and the neighbor has to pay for their schools, a child's education. Okay, what did they do? I want to do the same thing, basically. So it's by seeing is believing, and that's how it will scale. You start small, you create communities of practice, and then people see it, and then you build skill sets. The next village can then you do the same thing, basically. So it's a long process. You take the Indian approach, I think we'll win in that.
Now we have done all the panelist presentations. We will open the discussion to just request to.
Yeah, I just want to caution that, we are heard of ugly Americans. We have seen in how our neighbors in Asia itself have become the most anti-India. And I remember that some years ago I went to Nepal, the Indian ambassador saying, where are they going to go except to India? China has come there and they were eager to welcome China. And I think we have to really be very careful and not be too much like big brother attitude and really truly become partner. And that is very important.
Thank you. So now it's over.
Hello, sir.
I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Then after
When did I last attend a conference from 10 to 7 p.m.? Was in General Health Secretary. After 15 years attending conference, they're very fruitful and outstanding here and there. Lots of years and popular students are attending them. And ultimately, the Foundation Day celebration is just not the celebration of the past. It needs a resolve for the future what needs to be done. I think since the morning discussion, a number of things have come to, but I'll talk about one thing. And this has been thought process as part of last 2-3 years and seen that mechanization, everybody is saying the low hanging fruit. And Indian mechanization, everybody is talking about it. It's new to our opportunity, 80 million talk for that. The most expert, the person, when I talk to my team, I met Sidhu for the first time. He's the best person to know. He says, Sidhu, he's the best person to engage. And I talked to tractor companies also, senior management tractors, all these things. They're doing businesses of tractors also. They're big tractors there, not that business of them, not tractors that don't have. That's what they're doing. A lot of machinery are not doing that. And remember, we have talked about RIS as a think tank, a research organization of the book. And we have running the can Dakshin or RIS take a resolve today? Next 60 days, next 90 days, 100 days, prepare action plan what needs to be done regarding mechanization to take the solution there. On behalf of ICRISAT, I am willing to offer this thing right now. And we have ISCA platform. We have so many CV centers there. 4-5 places, we have farmhouses. We have their farmhouses. On behalf of all the CV centers, I will ensure that farmhouses will be utilized. Can we take some best machinery there, whatever is becoming as part of it, to showcase that in the center? And saying this because the service I belong to is service IS. But ICRISAT came here, we used to go for training there, and my senior used to go training there. I mean, ICRISAT started in 72. Best machinery of the globe was there in ICRISAT for agriculture. A large system, we built that machinery, we should show that the machinery used to see, and slowly it populated. The fund action plan, other action plans to do more is for the thing. All the best machineries needs to be there for that country. Let's do that in the fields which are available. Maybe enterprise university there. So my humble request would be, and the topic of this session is way forward for India-Africa Indian cooperation. And somebody take responsibility and so on. We are doing for trying to ourselves, ours government is government, enemy government. Let's find an action plan. We'll work together with you. And by the next time opportunity to celebrate, we'll say this very Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are also in. Yeah.
Yeah, as we are in the.
Yeah. So let us, please.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Ambud Chaturvedi. I represent a company called Overseas Infrastructure Alliance. We've been working in Africa for 20 years now. We've been doing a lot of the line of credit projects. And in India, I come from a city called Mathura, where I've been working on agriculture as well, where I've done demo farms. I've worked with my farmers to make them use drones to spray liquid fertilizers. And we've done soil testing because there have been alarming news that Western UP, the soil health is degrading rapidly. So firstly, RIS, thank you very much for this very topical thing. And it's very close to my heart because I've been doing this for the last 10 years. I want to make my comments in two parts. One, what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I think we've tried everything and intentions have been good from the Indian side and from the African side. To give you an example about the LOC projects, it's like an orchestra. Everything was planned, but when you have sort of political changes on both sides, like today also, we can make a resolve to put targets with the best of intentions. But tomorrow, what will happen, no one knows. During COVID time, India put a ban on broken rice exports. When we put a ban on that, at that point of time, the Indian broken rice exporters had 40% global share. And once the ban took place, overnight, these people lost their market share. Second, for wheat, when India put the ban, people outside of India, they started developing an alternative taste for wheat, and they started using Turkish wheat. So we have to be clear about what we can achieve from this beautiful partnership. We have to be realistic about it. Going forward, just a point for the roadmap. I think Africa and India both have lots of success stories. What we have done with mango, what we have done with milk, what we have done with basmati to a large extent. Same way with Africa, what they've done with coffee, what they have done with cocoa, what they have done with cashews. So if we were to pick one or two crops on which we can use the architecture, the Indian digital architecture for Africa, then I feel that would show an immediate result. Because how many of us over here have had cornstarch, which people like cassava flour? Has anyone eaten over here in India? No, we haven't. I don't think we will eat also. How many of people in Africa eat pinde ki sabzi, like from India? So that cross-pollination will not happen. They will not change their eating habits because of India. India is not going to change the eating habits because of Africa. Our role should be this DPI, digital infrastructure, which we've created. If we can shift it over there, and then let them do what they do best, because they also have lots of success stories. So on a few crops, maybe a few countries, 5 countries, 5 crops. If we can have that collaboration on the growth side, because I've seen that when I work with farmers in my area, I saw that they say, "Bhaiya, don't worry about production. We can do production. Just help us sell the market." So if we both, India and Africa, can help each other create brands for our products globally. For example, in India, you have Kala Namak rice. Now, the entire Buddhist population in Southeast Asia would start using it with their eyes closed. It's a offering which they give to their gods every morning. So if we can get some sort of inspirational story, a brand strategy on how to brand it. So I think few things, creating the brands, giving the markets to the farmers, because productivity happens. They know how to grow.
Good evening. My name is Pascal. I'm working with Sidhu. I'm working with David. We have come from the South-South Collaboration Conference. we hope it would happen. It was moved, we still came. And I'm so glad we came because now this is even more intimate. I cannot believe the gods who brought us here to bring us to an India-Africa event, which is exactly what we were going to talk about in the South-South collaboration. I have had one of the key words we have been using now in our effort is co-creation. I have had that over and over today. RIS, congratulations on your birthday. I join hands with the others. So blessed to be among the eminent people here. The difference between when I sit in a conference in Africa and when I sit in India, you guys talk with data. Done so much research, it's so factual about the things you say. We have talking of low-hanging fruit in mechanization. I have worked in this sector for 40 years, 40 years. I have been a university lecturer, I've done research, I've been a farmer, I have carried produce to the market with my own trucks. Now offering mechanization services in Kenya. I have worked in Ethiopia and €10 million project where we couldn't spend the money because of protocols of how to get money, German money used on machines because they want to bring German machinery, of which there are already enough graveyards. Africa is full of graveyards of machinery because a minister left Africa, went to Turkey and was promised 300 tractors. The 300 tractors arrived with no system whatsoever. So they are in a fire. Just before South Sudan got independence, I joined a consultancy team of 5 people. We went to the largest graveyard of machinery I've ever seen anywhere. And then we were told to put those machinery back to work. They had sat there for 8 years in the sun, etc. Let me not talk too much. We are in a system where in Africa, research and development goes to bed with the government, then they get donor money, bring in and do more research. Leaving out the private sector. The private sector is the farmer. The private sector is the people that have talked here about what they are doing about getting that produce to the market and all those systems. I am so in love with a ministry called Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Oh my God. So sexy. Because it's about farmers after all. The model we are talking about here with David and Sydney is about something we have worked on for the last 5 years. We are looking for big money because only big money will do it. We have tried to work with government so much in Africa and we have realized the solution is to get something good going and then they come. Because when you go to them first with an idea, your idea gets absorbed and disappears. So we have a great opportunity here, lots to learn from one another. We have a lot to learn from you, but we also have a lot to learn from us. I have never seen a better model than what David was presenting earlier, where we're trying to create a holistic bridge. We have been talking about mechanization, but we are now realizing with the teams that we have interacted with, especially today and the last few days, we now have to look at all of us together. And now the partnerships that are beyond mechanization are being formed here. So I agree with the user that please let's do like a 40-day plan of action of what will follow this. Because we really have a great opportunity here. The world is changing. In my country, the Gen Zs are in the streets. They are saying it cannot continue to be like this. I am not a politician at all. But a certain guy in Bad Group is trying to form an Ebola base in Kenya. Because he just throws some money to one big man there, and we start organize, and something is being built in 7 days to receive certain Ebola victims. Come and stay in our country, and the whole country is up in arms as we speak. It cannot continue to be the way it is, but I see this as not as a disaster, but as a very big opportunity to create this new order. Where I know in 2 weeks' time there's a BRICS event in this country, etc., etc. Let's do this. Let's be part of the bandwagon that is building this change. Let me stop there. I've listened the whole day from there. I'm very, very blessed to be here, and thank you very much.
Dr. Daniel, MIT. I tender my congratulations for 44th Foundation Day Conference for RIS and sincere appreciation for this effort for looking into the Africa. Now, the scenario is this, sir, right from the trade, entrepreneur, business, and the activist and the technology and technocrats and the agriculture is out there. However, I like to just bring one context in the next 25 seconds. Then I quickly give them, I have a question, and the one small thing is this. Soon after the World War II, Ethiopia, I'm not getting into the entire Africa, but the mother of Africa, which is Ethiopia, and since David touched that one, I like to have some clarity on that one. Soon after the World War I, and then Ethiopia got independence, and there's Haile Mariam Selassie. Ethiopia is a country not food deficit, number one. Number two, agriculture is not deficit, it's not in a bad shape. They are the one advanced in a level in the entire Africa to send the troops to the UN, not peacekeeping, offense troop, only one in the Korean War. And they fought bravely, fairly, and they got many crosses. When they came back, that's not an issue. Again, where the issue started, when Haile Mariam Selassie started, take the initiative for the African Union. And then things started getting worse. The theft, today we use wheat in the north, rice in the south, staple food. The staple food in Ethiopia is teff. And teff was not genetically modified till the idea of African Union started. And today, if you eat teff, even today what available in the remote area, you will not feel hungry for the entire day. That's why even in the Bible or in the pretext, the prophets who eat, they ran faster than the chariot. And that's why the marathoners from Ethiopia, their staple food is teff. And today you don't find that teff. So before 60s, it is not anymore. So it is not artificial. Number two, post Haile Mariam Selassie, Colonel Mengistu came. And then Mengistu vacated the country or moved country, and Zenawi came when the globalization started. So after African Union thought started, till the globalization, it is food dependent country from United Nations, one, to Bretton Woods. Then from what we are talking today, 2014, after startups, innovation, research, technology, everywhere, all the engineering institution of India never produced engineering entrepreneur, rather the engineering service providing engineers, and we exported. We never started the startup ecosystem, rather Silicon Valley. Now, how 90s Silicon Valley started the startup, the agricultural concept, what we are talking in 2026 was already started in Ethiopia in the 1990s early. I bring to this table. I like to bring to this table. Two, with that note, we have to clearly understand. Now, after 2012, after the Arab Spring, now again, the food dependency of Ethiopia is not based on Bretton Woods. It is based on the regional one, Saudi, UAE, and the general world order change. Now, number one, they are wheat self-sufficiency, they are exporting. Number two, when India wants to engage with Ethiopia or any other country, is it going to be in a government to government, institution to institution, community to community, or individual to individual? We have to have a position statement, then the position paper, then the policy style. And that can happen in a 3-layer with AU, African Union, continental governance level, to regional, either East Africa, or West Africa or EAF or ECOWAS or SADC, we have to have a clear who is the agency who is going to be the interlocutor, whether IGAD, we have to have a clear regional governing policies, position paper. 3, then we can have country-wise position paper. Now, with this note, I also like to put one more statement with a small note, lighter note. I request you to look into that aspect as well. Our Prime Minister visited Ethiopia. Ethiopian ambassador in Pakistan is more active than his counterpart in Delhi. So there are many aspects to this country to country engage. It's not the business people, it is not the activists, it is not the technocrats. It is all together come, and that starts with position statement today and position paper, like what Sir said, in 3 months, and their policy leads to. With this note, I thank everybody. Once again, thank you for this.
Thank you very much.
Just one point, we have to be just careful when we are talking about Africa. We talked about digital infrastructure, we talked about institution building. First of all, predominantly in India, we give a lot of subsidies. None of the African countries do that, right? So there are no subsidies, right? Or maybe one or two countries might be doing it on and off. But for example, fertilizers, right? So our structure of our institutions, our digital tools are structured in a way of typically subsidizing either the consumer or the farmer. In Africa, both don't get subsidized. There the logic is very simple. Actually, you afford it, you use it. If you don't afford it, it's fine. We don't care. And that's why actually in the morning also we had a talk there are more philanthropical funds coming there because their own government doesn't put money on the social security. Right? That's why they get. So whenever we are structuring something, you have to keep that thing in mind that whether we like it or not, their political class is not going to get into the subsidy structure at all.
So thank you very much. Situ, you will say something? Sir, Dr. Rajan.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to respond to Dr. Amit Singh from ICRISAT. Thank you for telling about that. In fact, if you see, ICRISAT is also a partner. So it's not offer for us, it's order. So I give you my word, in 90 days, we will develop a plan, what you have suggested. Not only that, but the Dakshin will also ensure that you and Vithalji, and since Dr. Sidhu also said he's in, so we put him in, and ensure that you go slightly Dakshin but west to Africa in 180 days to deliver that.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
We have actually so friends, you will agree with me that this discussion was very, very lively and very important issues emerged in this session, the way forward, which is I think we have discussed the real way forward. So I have 3 parts I will be concluding. One, I am giving the areas for partnership. Second is what kind of lessons we have learned. And third, the action plan, what you have mentioned, for especially for RIS and HSF. So on partnership, I have listed, during the discussion either in the morning or right now, 5 areas for the partnership. One is exchange of knowledge and the best practices and technology. This is one important area for the partnership. Second is developing joint research program and joint extension activities, like including every case. So jointly, like Pigeon Tree, for example, very important for India and Africa is producing for us. Can we develop a joint research proposal on, India, Africa, including research on the Pigeon Tree development, good variety, good technology, so that the productivity increases there as also in our country. Third area is handholding or capacity building or the demonstration in important key areas or the priority areas, whatever we identify. Fourth, most important is on partnership with the trade. Trade, we have few activities, few commodities. I think we need to explore how to strengthen trade between African countries and India. And fifth is, is the attracting the private sector, both countries. And it's basically to develop infrastructure, agri-infrastructure, and also developing or strengthening global value chain. So these are in my perspective, based on the learning since morning, I have listed 5 areas for partnership. And then activities or the best practices. One is 3 items I have listed. One is the developing the commodity clusters. Commodity clusters, is from seed to market, and then farm mechanization through custom hire services and water management, conserving water. I think these 4 components: seed sector, markets, farm mechanization, and water conservation are key for commodity clusters. And as was mentioned, that identify two commodities, 5 crops or 5 commodities, and 5 or 6 countries. And there we do these kind of experiments and try to see that how the yield gaps through best of the technology can be improved. The second is strengthening the institutions, how to improve the institutions. We have in the morning a wonderful session on cooperative dairy sector or given example. So this is one best practices you can learn. And then second is the farmer producer organization. You have Shehatari model in the forenoon session. Farm mechanization really had the hit of the entire session. Dr. Rasido and David have also made. So it was mechanization, example, to custom hire services or sustainable agriculture mechanization, as you have mentioned, Sam. And then the third area is the institutionalization of digitization, especially in agriculture sector, through either KVK or Kisan credit card kind of thing for extending credit to the farmers, or KVKs for sharing knowledge with the farming community. The fourth is, again, which we have discussed in this session, is on the communication. Effective communication, the bilateral country-country relationship. It was mentioned that how we can work closely with countries or foreign policy, specifically foreign policy. How we can improve the foreign policy and include agriculture sector in that one. And last is an action plan for RIS and for IPSF. So what I was thinking that you have given 6 months or 7 months, 9 months? 9 months. So I was saying that within one month, they should, based on this experience, they should come out with a policy brief immediately, because we have learned a lot during this session. And also you can write a opinion piece for newspaper, drawing lessons from the deliberation we have done. This can be done in 1 month. Second, I think, as you mentioned, I have also listed, constitute a joint working group to develop a white paper on India-Africa partnership. And before developing a white paper, I think we need to understand that Africa has also very large programs also they have developed. Like they have AGRA, for example, Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, this program, where they have identified 4 key areas. One is the seed system. The second is sustainable farming and farm mechanization. Third is inclusive markets and trade. And fourth is policy and state capacity. So these are the 4 areas they have identified in their Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa. And they have also another big program on Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP is there. So I think we should go through these programs before we develop the action plan or the white paper. Or we identify, I think if we focus on these 4 areas which they have, the AGRA has developed, I think that will be more helpful for Africa to take up some activity there. Then I was also thinking, which Sheikh Mira has given, the climate intelligence mission is one area which one can think of, but it can come under the action plan. And another area, for knowledge exchange, we can think of Indo-Africa Knowledge Initiative kind of a program which we have started some time back with Indo-US Knowledge Initiative Program. It was a very successful program. So it was between Indian Research Organization and African Research, US Research Organization. So similarly, Indo-African Research Organization, we can think of having these kinds of programs. With this, I thank RIS, especially Dr. Pratap Mittal and Dr. Sachin for inviting me and hearing this particular very important session. It was a great learning for me on Indo-Africa partnership, although I was also working in some of the African countries during my stay in IFPRI and IFPRI, and also a great learning, especially on trade literature, which is very important these days. If you want to tighten someone, you start trade. We also did on Vision Peace, especially in Myanmar and Africa. We did same thing, that when we have stopped importing Myanmar farmers and African farmers were severely affected. And long back, 1986 or 1996 or 97, we banned chickpea. So Australians were producing chickpea for us, they were affected. So we did same thing what Trump is doing for us these days. It is nothing new.
Honest confession.
Nothing new.
But this Trump, you are the guru of Trump.
So, with this, I thank you very much. I thank our esteemed panelists. Please give a big hand to the panelists. Very clear as well. And thank you to all of you for staying so long for this way forward session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Acha, please note that venue for the dinner has shifted to Amaltas. Amaltas is just opposite to where we had the morning session. You would have seen Eastern Auditorium just across. In the basement is Amaltas, so we'll go. There are signboards which are displayed. Or the other way is you can follow us, don't get lost in between, and then come to the dinner later. Okay. Come. Yeah. Thank you. जो हमारे सबसे आगे आगे जाएगा
सर पहले मीटिंग